Edmund Bernays was the founder of most of the influencing that happens in advertising, and the identical techniques are used for nefarious governments worldwide, not anyone in particular. Governments know that when you make people afraid and anxious, they become more suggestible. The critical faculty that protects you, that filters out information, it becomes porous, semi-permeable. Information starts to get in. And to control anyone, all you have to do is you set up a Hegelian dialectic. You create a problem, get everybody terrified, and then you say, here's the solution. And this is the solution you wanted to implement right from the beginning. And everyone says, give us a solution. They beg for it, and you get what you want.
2, 1, 0.
Hi, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion, and I'm excited to introduce to you the genius, Mike Mandel. This was an incredible interview. It was my honor and pleasure, and I ended up in tears because of a beautiful story he told me at the end. So stay till the end. There's a lot of wisdom in this episode. Mike Mandel, police trainer, forensic hypnotist, stage performer, NLP and hypnosis trainer, doing hypnosis since 1965, professionally since 1975, created methods used by hypnotists worldwide, does training in Las Vegas and Toronto and online. And I highly recommend going to his website because he gives a lot of things for free. And in this episode, we talked about stage hypnosis, connecting with animals, how everyone can get hypnotized, his martial arts background and teachings, the power of giving to the world, and how his wife helped him heal from a trauma he had when he was 4 years old. This episode was so incredibly wonderful, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun listening to it. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It's a pleasure having you here.
Wonderful to be here, Orion. I've been looking forward to this.
Before we begin, can you share a little bit about what made you got so intrigued with hypnosis and about your teaching today?
Well, it's a crazy thing. I'm useless at a lot of things. If I have to swim about 100 feet, I'll probably drown. You put a screwdriver in my hand and I can take my head off with it. I'm not mechanically inclined. I'm useless at math. I'm good at language, and language figures so well into hypnosis. And at age 12 in 1965, I discovered I had hypnotic abilities, and I've been doing this ever since.
Okay, tell me more about how do you discover something like that at age 12?
But interesting question. Yeah, it was a funny thing because I had next door neighbors. I lived in Toronto next to an animal hospital, and I hung out with the kids, Max and Wayne, whose father was a vet tech and lived in the apartment above the animal hospital. They had a deck up there and picnic table, and we had come to Canada from England when I was a boy, and my father was concerned I was watching so much television because it's North American TV. We had Buffalo and Rochester and Toronto, and so he said, I want you to read more. And he took me to a bookstore and said, any book you want, you can have. And the first one I saw was The Key to Hypnotism by Walter Gibson. I said, I want this book. 12 years old.
Wow.
Learned it, memorized it, went out searching for someone to hypnotize. And Max and Wayne next door with it. I was 12. Wayne was maybe 10. Max was 9. I went over and said, can I hypnotize you guys? I said, sure. They don't know what I'm talking about. To Max, it was a big joke. But Wayne was an amazing subject. And on my very first attempt, Orion, very first, he went into such a deep trance, his hand became cataleptic. It was floating in the air. And I stuck a hat pin through the tip of the flesh, not the skin, but right through the flesh of his finger, right up the other side, and blood running down. And he was like just looking at it. No pain, nothing. And I was absolutely amazed how well this worked. So his parents didn't think it was as amazing as I did. I was ordered to stop. But that started it. And I just found I had weird abilities. I could get my two friends to get irritated with each other and start wrestling on someone's lawn on the way home and get all dirty. And just had a way of influencing people. And then when I was about 21, I went and saw a show. The amazing Kreskin did his mentalism hypnosis suggestion show in Toronto at Minkler Auditorium. I went with a friend of mine who was an agent. And this is November 74. And I came home and I thought about it. And I told him the next day, I said, I think I can duplicate just about everything I saw on that show. And he went, what? He said, well, come into the agency and show us. So I did. And they booked me in January. I flew out to Edmonton and did a TV show. And I was a telephone operator at the time. working with 150 women, which was freaking awesome because some of them were really hot. And I was the only guy. And so I quit
And you
my
know how to
job.
influence them. Have you ever used your power for
Of course not. It's a
naughty
power
things?
so great, it could only be used for good or evil. But
Yeah.
I use it for good. But anyway, so I did that TV show and I loved it. And I'd never done anything like that. So I quit my job. And fortunately, I was living at home with my parents or I would have starved to death. But gradually, they started getting me gigs. And I wound up doing 5,000, about 5,000 hypnosis shows, Canada, US, Britain, Australia, Caribbean.
Wow.
And then hypnosis became my life teaching it, and which is what I love more. I retired from the stage 6 years ago. And after
Mm.
43 years on the road, and now the teaching, Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, is everything. We love teaching with my company, and turn ordinary people and psychiatrists and psychologists and dentists and doctors into phenomenal general practitioner hypnotists, so they can get rid of phobias, anxieties, pain management, all sorts of wonderful things, and make the world a better place.
So you make the world a better place, which is awesome. But when you look at things that happened in the last few years in the world and happening today, especially in universities, do you see hypnotic techniques and language that are being used by governments and media to influence the crowds?
Oh, yeah, exactly. You're absolutely on with that. Edmund Bernays was the founder of most of the influencing that happens in advertising, and the identical techniques are used for nefarious governments worldwide, not anyone in particular. Governments know that when you make people afraid and anxious, they become more suggestible. The critical
Mm.
faculty that protects you, that filters out information, becomes it becomes porous, semi-permeable. Information starts to get in. And to control anyone, all you have to do is you set up a Hegelian dialectic. You create a problem, get everybody terrified, and then you say, here's the solution. And this is the solution you wanted to implement right from the beginning. And everyone says, give us a solution. They beg for it, and you get what you want.
Right.
And governments worldwide do this. They keep people off balance and afraid. They divide. They divide left and right, male and female, gay and straight, black and white. They divide, and governments divide because they keep us infighting. And
Mm.
that serves their purposes, unfortunately.
Is there anything specific that you saw, like a technique or beyond just scaring people, that like language that is being used, body language that is being used, that one can detect when they're watching the news?
Yes, there's all sorts of things like that. In fact, it amazes me how much of this, Orion, is used on a daily basis that people do not seem to have these skills to detect, even when it's really obvious. I'll give you an example. One of the major banks in Toronto, years ago, my wife and I were there, downtown Toronto, in line at the bank, and I saw a poster framed and for the bank's services, and it said, listen to this. This is so hypnotic. It was borrow to get ahead so you don't fall behind. Well, isn't borrowing going further into debt? And isn't going
Mm.
further into debt falling behind in anyone's estimation? You see a lot of this sort of thing. Years ago, there was a pain-killing drug, Excedrin, an over-the-counter drug like aspirin or whatever. And they said, Excedrin, here, listen to the language, Excedrin, proven to be more effective than aspirin for pain other than headache. So pain other than headache. And then they say, so next time you have a headache, get Excedrin. It doesn't even make
Wow.
logical sense. But people need to stop and engage their critical faculty, the part of their mind that evaluates these things, because it's too easy for stuff to slip by.
Yes. I know. This is, yeah, I see it. And then I studied NLP, and then I do hypnosis myself. Um, and I really love it. And I know that I can always get better and learn more. And for me, when I do hypnosis, I have the tools and they're amazing, and I cannot do it without the tools. And there is also something energetic that is happening, kind of like a portal or an opening or a bubble that is created between me and my client, and stuff comes through me in order to help them. Do you feel the same?
Well, everyone has a worldview, right? So we all have a worldview of what life is about, where it's going, why we're here, and all the components of that stabilized by our beliefs and perceptual filters. I would see what you're saying in a slightly different way. I see it as creating a psychodynamic loop between me and the client or subject. And as I reinforce that loop through body language shifts, breathing shifts, offering back their own language, and intensifying the hypnotic loop, we begin almost a dance, a psychological dance. And that enables me to act intuitively because I'm picking up the unconscious cues from them, the subtle shifts in their body language, the micro expressions and things. That enables me to do work very, very quickly and very cleanly. So I think we're talking about the same thing, just in slightly different words.
Similar. I also feel like there is a psychodynamic between me and God creation. I think there is a lot of energetics that is coming through. But that's just me. Anywho.
No, but that's interesting. I understand what you're saying, because one of the things I do is I practice Qigong and a few other, things like that from Chinese medicine. And the energetic system is no doubt a real thing. I've seen it work with my cat. I'm a cat person. I'm an ailurophile, so I've had a lot of cats, mostly Bengal cats, and now I've got an Egyptian Mal. But two of the cats, one of them went to the vet, and when he came back, because he'd been at the vet, he smelled differently. And his brother didn't like him. You're not him. Like you look like him, but you're not my brother. Freaked out. This went on for over a month. He'd come into the room and the cat would hiss and like want to attack him. And it's like, my wife got so upset. She said he hates his brother now. It's so sad. So I was downstairs with the cat and I did some of the tapping modalities on the cat remotely. He's sitting in front of the fire.
On the cat?
But awesome. Not on him, tapping on myself.
On yourself for the cat.
While looking at him.
Okay.
I did a surrogate tapping. So I was saying, I love my brother. My brother's my best friend. He's not a problem anymore. He smells normal again. I did about 3 rounds of tapping. The cat's ignoring me. But you got to remember, this had gone on for at least a month. And about 10 minutes later, when I ended it by, I'm Mike again. I'm me again. I'm not the cat.
Oh.
And about 10 minutes later, Raja, the other cat, came downstairs and his brother turned and saw him. And for the first time, he went over to him and started washing his face. I mean, I can't explain this stuff. Wow. I don't really understand it. Yeah, but there is an energetic exchange takes place. Most definitely there is.
Yeah, I had my fair share of animal communication, and there was a little crab one time outside of our door, because I live in Florida, and there is a season where they all come out, the blue crab, and the little poor animal was so scared, and it had its claws up in the air for half an hour, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he's so scared. And I eventually I came to him and I'm like, listen, we don't eat blue crabs. Don't worry, you're completely safe. We are not going to hurt you. I just looked at him, and I think I even spoke it out loud. And then you see his claws going in slow motion, going down immediately as I was speaking to him. And then
that's lovely. I mean, that's just lovely. You're clearly an animal person.
I love animals.
That makes you go even higher in my estimate. I love all animals. And here in Toronto, I've got about 12 squirrels. We get raccoons, possums, foxes, skunks. They all come through the house. Well, not the house, but the yard.
Yeah, same here. We have a possum in our backyard, and we live on a lake.
I love possums.
Yeah, they're so sweet. They're a very sweet animal, and they're safer than people think. They're actually quite harmless.
Yeah, and they're the cleanup crew. They don't cause a problem. They clean up all the garbage and everything. So you got to love them.
Yes. Absolutely.
But you interacted with that crab, and I totally hear you. I've used a lot of different tapping modalities over the years. I did EFT, faster EFT, be set free fast, touch and breathe, tapas acupressure technique, my own particular one, which is a 6-step one. And when you're working in your office or something, and a neighbor's dog is in the yard and barking, and won't stop, I've done the tapping for that. Say, it's time to stop barking now. You don't need to bark anymore. Doing it surrogate. And then the dog suddenly stops.
Ooh.
I don't get it.
That's phenomenal.
But it's fascinating. And it ties in with hypnosis because I teach my 6-step tapping to my students. So it's top of the head, center of the forehead, outer corner of the eye, under the edge of the collarbone. Squeeze, breathe, say awesome, relax. Because this hits. Yeah, one of my students, Tom Ye, was a Chinese doctor, Chinese medicine
practitioner. I like the way you did it. You did it so
squeeze.
It was very, very
yeah, squeeze it. take a deep breath, exhale, because there's at least 3 meridians run through
Okay.
here, and this hits all of them at the same time. Or you can tap, but I just find that more elegant.
Mm.
But those 6 spots, I mean, I was doing all the complex, tapping and happy birthday and all these. I found they're not needed, and it's way, way easier. And this is how weird this gets, and we're sort of off topic, but I think it's worth saying. I have a fascination with ravens and crows.
Ooh.
Corvus corax, Corvus brachiorhynchus. I love them, and they like me. And I was up in northern Ontario, so like Thunder Bay or something. It's way up Lake Superior, cold, dark, and late in the afternoon, it's starting to snow. And I was looking for my hotel window. I had a lecture that night at Lakehead University. And I look, and I saw a flock of ravens, about 40 of them, flying in a circle in the air in the snow, about maybe 200 yards away. And I'm watching them. And I started tapping and saying, ravens, ravens. I love ravens. As I tapped, one broke out from the group and started circling by itself. So I kept doing it. I swear to you, Orion, this raven flew the 200 meters right to my hotel window and went like this. It was
Wow.
just mind blowing. I don't get it, but we are all connected. We are all connected in some way.
I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I want to go back to hypnosis, and do you think everyone can get hypnotized, or there are some people because of their strong resistance?
That's a very good question. People in normal health, normal mental health, can be hypnotized. These old scales, only 20% are good subjects and 10% can't be hit. Those are nonsensical scales. And even we've had a bit of a disagreement with Dr. Spiegel from Stanford University, who is a great, great clinician, a great researcher. I have so much respect for him. But he said a thing that we just don't accept. He said that hypnotizability doesn't change over time. So if you check someone's hypnotizability by using one of these ridiculous scales, and then say they score a 6 out of 10, and you go back 25 years later, they'll still score a 6 out of 10. But that to me proves nothing, because hypnosis is a learning state. And
Wow.
when I teach architecture of hypnosis, when I teach architecture of hypnosis, which are 5-day intensives in Toronto, we have one coming up in 3 weeks, being sold out for months. When we teach that, on day one, many of the people have zero experience. When we do get our psychologists, psychiatrists, and doctors, but I like the blank slate people, the tabula rasa. I don't have to reteach them stuff they've learned poorly. And we get a lot of hypnosis trainers come in because we correct their technique.
Wow.
And so the first day, people have no experience. By Friday, everyone in that class is an excellent subject.
Wow.
We just teach them how to be good subjects. It's a myth that you can't be a good subject. People think it's something that you're doing to them. But if they learn to follow the steps, anyone can experience a very good trance.
That's amazing. I'm more inclined to believe what you're saying because, hey, we're completely different people every day. I'm a different person every hour. We really
Totally true.
we shift and change. We open. We experience joy. We experience trauma. We experience so many things, and we're very different. And Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right."
You're right. That's a great quote. I didn't know it was him, but it's an excellent quote. I've used that one a lot. My favorite quote right now, and when I did the keynote at HypnoThoughts Live, the biggest hypnosis conference in the world in Las Vegas, they asked me to present to all my peers. And I gave this quote, and so many people like it. Zig Ziglar, the motivational speaker, said this. I love it. And I've proven it true in my life, and I'm sure you have as well. You can get anything you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Yes.
So call it karma, providence, the Tao, whatever. It comes back. If we just keep giving and helping, you can't outgive people. It comes back incredibly. It's just a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, I agree. And I actually heard it from Tony Robbins, who studied with Zig Ziglar. So
did he? I didn't know he studied with him.
That's how
great.
he started.
I love Tony
that's how he
Robbins.
learned everything. He became his apprentice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing piece of knowledge I did not have.
I can't believe it. I shared something you don't know. That's awesome.
There's many spaces in this head.
Yes, my relative, she went to a hypnotherapist online, and she decided that she cannot get hypnotized online. She's got a fear of flying. Now, I want to offer her my services just to help her out. And I don't even know how to approach this because she's so determined that she cannot get. And I do my sessions via Zoom. she is like, I cannot be hypnotized via Zoom. But from my experience, I had, of course, a lot of people got great breakthroughs. Actually, there's everyone gets breakthroughs through those sessions, and it doesn't matter. So, what do you think about in person versus online, and the effectivity of that? And also, how can I convince her?
I would rather, I don't do therapy anymore, just teach, but I would rather, much rather have in person because I can pick up much more
Mm,
subtle verbal or nonverbal cues because I'm seeing their whole body. You know, if somebody starts tapping
mm,
their foot every time they talk about their spouse, I'm wondering why. So I can
right.
calibrate better when I can see the entire person. But when someone would say to me, well, I can't be hypnotized on Zoom or I can't do, be hypnotized to a deep level or whatever, I would say, who hypnotized you to believe that? And that always starts, and they, well, what do you mean? I say, how did you come to believe that? Here's the two Jedi questions I use all the time. How did you come to
Yeah.
believe that? And how do you know it's true? And just keep asking.
Ooh.
Gil Boyne, amazing hypnotherapist, back in the 60s, 70s. I've seen him work with clients on video, and he'd get someone who was absolutely convinced they could not go into a deep trance. And he'd say, just answer
Mm.
this. He said, complete this sentence. If I go into a deep trance, and the person says, uh, I will lose control. He says, okay, now another one. If I go into a deep trance, I might embarrass myself. Give me another one. And they just keep doing it, and they drain all of their resistance. And he says, just say, are you ready to go into a deep trance? Yeah. And bang, he does a PGO spike. Just slam and bang, they're gone. It's just
Yeah.
fantastic.
This is so interesting. I was always curious about, what makes us work, and how to influence people. And I used to be a personal trainer, but I read a lot about NLP and I was really into it. So I used to stretch my clients and kind of like using some embedded commands while I'm stretching them, and they're in very relaxed state, and telling them a lot of good things about themselves. And the people that I did this to were excelling very rapidly in their training and in their bodies and in their joy of life.
And your embedded commands would do the trick. I mean, absolutely. I'm an NLP trainer. I trained with John Grinder, and it's the embedded commands are one of the most neglected things in hypnosis, and they're so
I agree
immensely
with you.
powerful and so easy to
Okay,
use.
can we
Yeah,
can
so
we
easy
dive
to
into
use.
embedded commands and how can we use them in life?
Anything you want.
So, what is an embedded command for somebody who doesn't know, and how they can use it?
You can have an embedded command, an embedded statement, or an embedded suggestion. And all of these, mostly commands, are sentence fragments that are standalone commands. So if you mark them analogically by saying them slightly different, or pausing just before them, or touching the person as you say them, it marks it. So it has to be subtle enough that the conscious mind does not notice it, but obvious enough that the unconscious does notice it. So it's the simplest thing, you can say, and when you sit there, I think you're going to find it really easy to fall into a
Mm,
trance. And there's the embedded command, fall into a trance. It's marked subtly enough, and that will start the work
right.
happening already. And I love all that. We actually have, these are hypnotic language cards. This is the first iteration. We now are on 2.0, which it's blue instead of red. So these are hypnotic power in a box. And this teaches embedded commands and all sorts of things. You can get them for free on our website. You just pay for shipping. That's it. And it is the real shipping cost. It's not, $100 for shipping or something. But these have been we sold thousands of these worldwide. So they're an actual deck of cards, as you can see, but they all have embedded
Why do
commands
you
and
sell it
different
for free?
hypnotic things you can use. Because what it does, we give them away. Um, because what that does is it shows people the quality of our
You're
training,
so
what we
smart.
have. And then very often people will go on to get some of our training and try it, and they see that our stuff is good and dependable. And then we wind up with more people. I think we've got 3,000 online
And
students right
that's
now.
awesome. Because I signed up. I know that you have a 4-day trial for free. You don't even have to put your credit card on. Um, and I just signed up yesterday, and now I'm regretting it. I was like, I should have signed up today because then I would have 3 more days. But I will probably, just because I'm very curious and I love learning, I'll probably join your program. Um, but that's amazing. What an amazing system! Like, just offer people, and it goes back to It shows me that you're very congruent in your teaching, because you just said a few sentences ago that the more you give, the more people you help, the more you get back. And this is a beautiful way to help people, because, actually some people cannot afford even the $67 a month or those cards. And you're really, really, really helping people, and you send so much blessings and everything comes back. This is amazing.
It's a wonderful thing, and I almost feel guilty because it makes me feel so good helping people. It almost feels like that's why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? I'm doing it for selfish reasons because it makes me really happy. We just set up a scholarship at my high school in Toronto, where I attended from 1966 on, and it's an art school, a performing arts school, and an visual art school. And we've set up a Mike Mandel Performing Arts Award that every year for the next 20 years, it'll be in my estate, will be going to some kid who does not have any advantages, but someone who's showing the talent, and they'll get a substantial financial prize that they can use to maybe get into the performing arts, which I think it's a lovely thing. It was my wife's idea, and she's huge on giving. We give to owl sanctuaries and cat rescues. And my favorite is this one. Every Christmas, we buy Christmas dinner for a couple of hundred homeless people in Toronto. And they get the full Christmas dinner of turkey and dessert and everything. And it just, I said, I feel guilty because that makes me feel so good to be able to do it. I don't need anything, I've had a good life. I've got everything I want. I can't play any more guitars than I have, or just my health is good. I've got my cat and my wife, and it's time to give back. And it really is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's one of the reasons we never say no to podcasts now. I mean, if I can agree with the person, at least in some area of overlap, we have something to talk about. And you are such a go-getter.
You'll have to come back.
But you're such a go-getter, and I know you're all about achievement and helping people and being really positive, and I just love that. It's just fantastic.
We have another thing in common. I used to play guitar in high school. I haven't done that. You see, but now I have long nails, and I kind of like, it's either the guitar or my nails, and I'm like my nails.
Oh, hear ya. I've only got the long nails on my right hand for the guitar, but not my left hand. It rips at the typing.
I kind of like them.
I've actually got here. Check this out. So here's my AC/DC tattoo. I've got an AC/DC guitar, one of the Angus Young SGs with the lightning bolts. It's just fantastic. I feel like a kid.
I love it. When I was in high school, I used to hang out with the boys. I was the only girl in a group of, I think, like 12 boys, and I was kind of like the tomboy. I was like one of them, it wasn't anything sexual. And they, like, some of them were really good guitar players, and they really like heavy metal, like Metallica and some like Megadeth.
Here's my that's my Led Zeppelin. I grew up. That's my Jimmy Page Led Zeppelin.
I had Led Zeppelin too. Yeah, my next door neighbor. I remember going to his room, and he played Led Zeppelin, and he had the Led Zeppelin on the wall, the angel thing. It was pretty cool. Yeah. So I grew up listening to some heavy metal, and I had many phases in my life. I feel like a shapeshifter.
Yeah, I think when we realize that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with being that. I think it's a powerful thing. The ego state, the subpersonality, when I'm playing with my Egyptian male cat, is not the same one that I want executive when I'm teaching jujitsu or something. It's not going to be appropriate.
You're teaching jujitsu?
Yes, actually, yeah. I taught all the Ontario Provincial Police instructors hand-to-hand combat. And it was fun. I went there, and the big cops, and these are all instructors. We just get the biggest guy in the room and make him scream and cry, and then everybody pays attention all day.
I studied a little bit of MMA and Aikido, and I tried jiu-jitsu, but I had this like lady that I would spar with, and she had long nails, and I came back home with scratches, and I was like, nah, I don't like that. So MMA was my thing for a while, and Aikido for a while. So yeah, wow.
That's cool. I did Aikido in Toronto with Obata Sensei too. Yeah, interesting.
What is it about?
But I got to say, the one we do, this is actually, it's a British jiu-jitsu. Yukio Tani and Taramaki were two Japanese who came through Britain around 1900 giving demonstrations. And my sensei, Bill Underwood, was only 5'2".
Mm,
He studied with them, and he was a natural prodigy, even at 5'2". And he was on the Tonight Show, and it was just amazing. So I was his only instructor when he died.
wow.
And so we took it back to England and taught it in England. The difference is because it's a military-based system,
Mm,
we don't wear pajamas. We wear steel-toed boots. We carry blades. It's like,
I love that.
so it's just to save your life. And so,
No, I love
but
that.
jiu-jitsu based, but it is military. We used to say if James Bond was real, this would be the system he would use.
Hmm.
I can see you doing MMA. I really can.
So in my journey, I went to an abusive relationship, and I got hurt physically, and that's where I ended it. And I said to myself, nobody ever is going to hurt me again. And that what made me study martial arts. But then I got so tough like a guy, and I forgot about what is it to be a woman or to be in my body as a woman. And then I went through a whole new journey of connecting into my femininity. And, and so I love that dance between masculine and feminine and being strong in both and not just one or the other.
Now that's interesting because you went through that bad experience, and that's how I got into martial arts because I was a very small, smart kid, but very little when we came from England, and I was bullied
Mm.
just terribly, beaten up so many times, and bullied by a
Oh,
teacher who
no.
almost gave me a nervous breakdown because I skipped grade 4. I went from grade 3 to grade 5, and then I put in a mixed 5-6 class, expected to work at grade 6 level. I was just in grade 3 the year before, and it was too hard. And the teacher was really
Mm.
harsh and really militaristic, and he hated me. I got yanked out of his class, but I remember
Oh,
saying this as a very little boy, beaten up all the time. I said, one day I'm going to get so smart and so tough that nobody's going to dominate me ever again. And it happened.
I love that. It's like the worst times in our lives are our greatest gifts, and it's just like a gift with a bow on the bottom. You can't really open it. Maybe just a few years later, or even a decade later, you look back and you say, "That was actually because if you didn't have that bully, you wouldn't be the person that you are today." And those homeless people would never get their Christmas meal.
Oh, well, we might have done that anyway. I've got such a loving wife. We've been married 41, 42 years or something. I still call her my first wife just to keep her on her toes.
So, what's the secret to long-lasting relationship like that that are loving and connected?
My father gave me the secret. He gave me 2 rules for life. One is about public restrooms. He said, go when you can, not when you have to. In other words, if there's a restroom, use it. And that served me well because I've been on planes where there's bad turbulence and people can't get out of their seats. And I'm going, fine, I'm okay. I already went. Now, the other one he gave me is even more important. And this has been a real thing for me that's helped a lot. I was actually the relationship communications coach on CBC television for 2 seasons and bringing the NLP skills in. Yeah, it was cool. But I gave the thing my dad taught me, which is this. He said, always keep the communication lines open. No matter how much you fight,
Mm,
no matter how much you insist on still communicating. Well, you know, as an NLP practitioner, you're always communicating anyway. But I'm talking about communicating intentionally, not shutting that door, not doing the silent treatment, not ghosting somebody. Keep the communication lines open. And good relationships take work, but guess what? It's worth it. It is absolutely
yeah.
worth it.
Yes, I have a very like my husband is wonderful, and we had a lot of our own turbulences in our relationship, and sometimes I do give him the silent treatment because it makes me feel stronger and more important. But eventually we talk. We always talk,
Well, that's really good.
and the core intention is to go back to love.
Yes, absolutely. But women need to understand something about men. And this comes from Griffin and Tyrrell, Human Givens Theory out of Cambridge, England, 2 psychologists. They said women misunderstand something. They get in an argument with a guy and he gets up and he goes out of the room or something. And they said, what you have to understand is men are far more likely to have a heart attack or stroke from anger than women are. And we intuitively try to disengage so we can get the stress chemicals and the cortisol out of our system. And so men have to be allowed to calm down and then regain. But they're not dissing you by walking away. It's self-preservation, and they
No,
instinctively know
I'm the one who's walking away.
I know what I'm
I'm the
saying. If
one
a guy does it, if a man does it, that's the
yeah.
reason why. It's so he doesn't have a freaking heart attack.
You know what? Like, I think maybe I do it because I also need my time to calm down. I'm a very passionate person. I have a quick temper, and sometimes I need to walk away to just breathe.
What's your heritage? What's your
Sometimes-
national heritage?
I'm Israeli.
Oh, how cool is that? I've got some
so-
Hebrew.
You
I
do?
can speak some Hebrew. Yeah. Ivrakaka Adonai vishmeraka. Ya'er Adonai panavileka vichumeka. Yisa Adonai panavileka v'yasem leka. Shalom. Number 6,
wonder-
24 to 26.
I love that.
Love it. I love it. It's a beautiful language.
I bless my son with this blessing every Friday night.
Beautiful. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you.
Yeah, it's like God bless you and light your way and take care of you.
And even the verse where it says, may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.
Are you my relative? I feel like we have a lot in common.
that verse,
relative?
that line is so beautiful because what it actually means is it's a loving father holding the baby, smiling, lift up his countenance upon you. I mean, that's wonderful stuff. Thing is, Mandel is a Jewish name. And I'm a Celtic Anglo-Scottish Presbyterian. So
how do you know the blessings? Like, why would you learn that?
I love language. And I've got some Japanese, some Chinese, some Russian, some Greek. My French is my best.
Watashi mo nihongo o hanashimasu.
Watashi mo nihongo ga sukoshi shika hanasama-san. Konnichiwa. Yeah. Now that's interesting. But the thing is, because people think I'm Jewish, we get invited to so many seders. It's like, so I could have been a cantor, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'amalech ha'olam. It's a beautiful language.
Yeah, it's a cool one, but seders are really long, and I found that depends on the family that host it, and depends on the food. It's like it can be a really pleasurable experience or a very long drawn experience.
The last one we were at was like 11 o'clock, 11:15. It was like my wife and I were like, I go to bed at 10 o'clock.
Yes. Wow, that's very, very cool. I didn't know Mandel was a Jewish name, but now I do.
It means it often is. It's actually it's German for almond.
Almond. You're Mike Almond.
Apparently, das ist sehr gut, mein gnädiges Fräulein. Yeah, apparently.
I like that. Wow, this is amazing. So you said you were.
Now, do you agree this is a simple name? Mandel is a simple name. I know it's backwards in the picture here, but people would get it wrong. It would amaze me how they can misspell something so easy. I got a fan letter in the 70s when I did a show somewhere to Vince, not even Mike, Vince Mansell. I thought,
well, it's the intention that matters.
Intention was nice, yeah.
In Judaism, they say that if you want to perform a mitzvah, which means a good deed, but you can't, like you really have the desire, but you don't have the means. You're like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could help like in this way. Even that intention is getting you the rewards. Just having that even having that beautiful intention is sometimes good enough. And of course, you have to be a really good.
Hashem doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, oh my goodness. That's amazing, Mike. Really. I'm so impressed with you. Really impressed with you. So I want to go back to hypnosis. You said you did stage hypnosis for a very long time. What did you learn about humanity? What are some takeaways from doing so many years of stage hypnosis?
Everybody's suggestible. And people respond to suggestion unconsciously. And that's why we have to be very, very careful how we label people, especially as my friend Freddie Jacquin, excellent hypnotherapist and trainer, says, create an emotion, give a suggestion. When we're emotional, the critical faculty opens wide. Things get in. And when people label their kids, let's label them with positive things, because people tend to live up to labels. That's such a hypnotic thing. If I say to someone, well, I know you're the kind of person who likes to be generous. people will live up to that because they want to be seen as that.
Right.
But if someone says to their kid, you're stupid, you'll never learn, you're a
Why
loser.
would somebody say that?
What a horrific thing. And people do it thinking that, they'll take one kid in the family and scapegoat them or something. I've seen it so many times. You can scar them for life with this kind of thing. And how much easier it is to be kind and give people suggestions. Like I never say to say it's a little girl, friend, a relative. I would never say, "Oh, you're a beautiful young girl." I would say, "You're a beautiful and such a super smart young girl too." I mean, let's hit all the buttons.
Right. I love
Let's
that.
make sure the person is fed the positive stuff. And that was a blessing for me, Orion, because my mother and father, like I said, we came from England, and we had a good home. We had a good family. I have one sister 7 years older than me, and we ate meals together. We talked openly about things. And that was a gift they gave me that it just goes on giving. Just having what I guess I would call a loving, normal family. And I realize so many people don't have that. So anything we can do to sort of, I guess, give back through other people. I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say there, but
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is parents and people and teachers, be mindful with your words, because words are, you know, if you believe in the Bible, God created the world with the word, and words are powerful. They're like spells, and you can really influence, especially a small mind, when you're saying the wrong things. Now, I have a 4.5-year-old who is amazing, and I make a lot of mistakes, like everybody. Um, and my intention is always to empower him. Somebody told him, "Don't tell him that he's smart, because then he will live up to that expectations, and when he makes mistakes, he will feel bad, and he will never want to make mistakes." Blah blah blah. I don't agree with that. I always tell him, I tell him, you're smart, you're capable, you can do it. And sometimes before he, like when he sleeps, when he just falls asleep, I will just be there and whisper in his ear, like, "I love you. You're powerful. You're strong. You're safe."
and when
Yeah.
you do that, you are pouring into his life. You're pouring love into his life. And it comes back. I mean, that's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. You said he's 4?
He's 4.5. Yes. He's almost 5.
4.5. Fantastic.
Yes, almost 5. Gosh. Time flies like that.
Let me tell you something cool. This is about 1957, April 29. I was 4 years old, my 4th birthday in England. And we went to my aunt's house for a Christmas, like a birthday lunch. I'd never had a birthday celebration. So we went on the Manchester bus, which was double-decker English bus, my mom, my dad, my sister, and I. And it was a rainy afternoon, which I love. I'm a pluviophile. I love rain. I'm never happier than when it's pouring rain. And we had lunch, and they gave us a box of Black Magic chocolates, which were an expensive luxury. We didn't have any money. And they gave me some soldiers, toy soldiers made of cardboard. And it was so exciting. We drank tea and ate these chocolates. We had a cake. And then someone, I don't know who, gave me a teddy bear.
Oh.
And it might have been my aunt. And I sat with this bear on my lap, eating chocolates and drinking tea. 4-year-old boy. I was the happiest boy in the world. And I told this bear I loved him, and his name was Teddy. And then we went home. We had to go home. The party ended. We're back on the bus, and it's raining on the upper deck. And then we rush off the bus with umbrellas and sweaters and coats and stuff. And we get 100 feet down the road, and I realize I left my bear on the bus.
Oh, no.
And I can remember being terrified and grief-stricken.
Oh.
And my mom and dad were great. My dad phoned the Manchester bus company. They tried to track him down. They never found my bear, Teddy. And I buried that pain for 30 years. And then my wife knew my whole story. She knows everything about me. And her birthday is Christmas Day.
Okay.
And so Christmas is a big deal in this house. And so we opened all our presents. And then she said, "I think there's another one there." I went, "What? Where?" I was like, and behind this piece of furniture, there's a parcel. And it says, "To Mike from Santa Claus." And I opened this thing, and it was a teddy bear. And it said Teddy on his sweater. And I hugged that bear. And that 4-year-old little boy, that ego state became executive. And I was wailing, crying. And I processed all that sadness and grief came out. And my life changed from that moment. I became a softer person. I became a kinder person. And I'll tell you, I said this at Hypnothoughts Live when I gave the keynote. I'm a 71-year-old man. And that bear sleeps in my bed with me every single night. And when I hug that bear, in fact, hang on, this is Teddy. So, hi, Orion, how you doing? Here, sit over here. So when I go to bed at night, I hug that bear and all my problems disappear and all my fear disappears. And that 4-year-old little boy
Wow.
becomes executive again, and he feels safe and loved and comforted. And we have our inner children, and we need to look after them and reconnect with them. And I tell my students, find toys you had when you were a kid. Find your favorite book, your favorite song, your favorite comic book. Read it again, and let that inner child start to wake up, because there's so much creativity there and so much joy.
Wow, unbelievable. That was an amazing story. Thank you for sharing it. And thank you for joining Teddy and us. Thank you. Before we say goodbye for now, and I would love you to come back on the show, what are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life, and where can people find you?
Oh, I'll tell you where you can find me first, because that's easy. It's backwards, but Mike Mandel Hypnosis, Mandel. We're online. We're all over the web. We're all over YouTube. We've got hundreds and hundreds of videos out there, free stuff. Okay, we give tons of stuff away because we think it's a good idea. Top things, recognize that every day above ground is a plus. There's always something wonderful. Behind the worst problems, as you said earlier, those can turn into some of our greatest strengths if we process them properly.
Mhm.
Another thing is not letting the sun go down on our anger. I think it was Shlomo said that. If it wasn't him, it should have been. The whole idea that by 11 p.m., I stop arguing. If I'm arguing with anyone, I say, 11 o'clock, everybody's right now. I just drop it. I will not take an argument to bed with me. Pray that you sleep well. Don't take stuff to bed. And I guess the third one will be, remember to use things and love people, not use people and love things. Hold on to the world with a light grip, and be free to let it go. It's short. My mom was 53 when she died of cancer. My dad was 57. 57. My wife's parents died in their 50s. So we don't have any longevity. So I'm 71 and I'm freaking loving life, and I'm still here. I always said I wanted to be young and wild, then middle-aged and rich, and then old and annoy people by pretending to be deaf. And that's the one I'm working on now.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for everything you shared. And thank you for everything you share online. And thank you for being such a beautiful light in the world. I honor and appreciate you. Thank you.
I honor and appreciate you too. We will meet again.
We will meet again, hopefully in person one day. And listeners, remember, every day is a blessing. Do not take an argument to bed with you. Use things and love people and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.